Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining the session today. I'm really pleased to talk to you about bringing context home. And I'll start introducing myself. I consider myself a designer and a developer. I'm not really splitting between those two unless I really have to. I also do work as a project manager, but I actually enjoy it more to work like closer with the code. I'm one half of All Apps. We build mostly apps for iOS and have a specific interest for something we'd like to call casual productivity. And recently we released 2 iBeacon-based apps. First of all, because we wanted to get some experience in that field, and we wanted to check out how it feels like to have like context-aware application. Because the issue at the moment really is there are just very few use cases in this field. Like a lot of activity around retail and mass deployments, but not so much in a personal context. And that's something we wanted to explore. So here's what we did. Trying to solve some really simple problems in a very focused way. And the first approach on this was a travel radar. The basic idea is that you put an iBeacon to your luggage, and then you can see the distance to your luggage, and also you will get notified if it moves or if it gets like in range, out of range. So straightforward. And the second app we developed is Launch Here. It enables micro-location-based app shortcuts on your lock screen. So what you can do with it is you put beacons at your home at specific spots you want to connect with specific apps, and then you set it up so you connect the apps with the beacons, and yeah, then you can quickly launch these apps at a specific location. So for example, when you are going to your sofa and you open your lock screen, you can, like, with one swipe, open the Apple TV remote app, or when you're at the kitchen, at the fridge, you could have like a list app or a timer. So it's this basic idea of connecting locations with applications. Yeah, and we were actually really surprised by the attention we received for those simple use cases. So it really seems like iBeacons are a hot topic, and we believe it will continue to be one. Also, we were really excited to see that people are also looking for use cases like ours, like in this home context. So that was really encouraging. Yeah, so let's explore this area in this talk further. Let's talk about bringing context home. Yeah, currently our presence is really split between 2 places, like 2 worlds, like the physical world and the digital world, and there's like a lot of friction moving between those and transitioning back and forth. And context awareness is about bringing these 2 worlds closer together and bridging these gaps in a more seamless way. And yeah, home is a huge part of this, of course. Like next to work, it might be the one space where we spend most of our times. And there are a lot of contexts to switch between. So yeah, it's a great area to work with, I think. And by the way, like when I'm talking about home, I'm not talking about home automation, not necessarily. I'm rather talking about just casual use cases with a low barrier of entry, like tasks that everyone can relate to. And technology-wise, I will focus on iOS and iBeacons in specifically, because that's just our own background here. And the thing is, it's what we can use today to actually create these applications. So you might be able to adapt some of this to other platforms or not, but that's the main focus here. And I think the session will be interesting for people who build apps, or people who think about building apps, people who create products that might integrate beacons, and beacon makers. So I do assume that you have like a basic know-how what iBeacons are, and Martin, I think, did a great job to do that, to explain that. So I will build on that. I won't start from scratch here. And yeah. So let's move on. So what we'll do now is, first I would like to establish a common ground. So we have like a common understanding of how an iBeacon-based app experience should look like. I will mention some considerations on installation, so like deployment of beacons, as this is the requirement. Yeah, we need to see how we get the beacons to the people who use them. And then in the second part, I will dive into home as a use case and also talk about some UI considerations. All right. Understanding iBeacons and their experience. So this is actually like super simple, easy to understand stuff, but it's really important actually that that you understand this, because like every misunderstanding in that point will lead to like wasting time in development or being rejected in the App Store review, for example, and we totally learned that the hard way. So I want to give you this service and spare you these experiences by telling you how we understand this should look like, especially from the perspective of Apple. So let's see. So the first thing is you install an app after you found it. And the second step is you launch the app and you use the app. And so there's actually not really a change here. However, you might, or the user might recognize or realize some things. And they might notice that, for example, the UI of the app adapts to their environment and their context. It might be easier for them to launch the app at the right time, at the right spot, maybe by using a launch icon on your lock screen. And in general, the app becomes more useful and efficient, maybe even easier to use. So let's take a closer look at that. As you realized, like at no part of this initial experience, I mentioned iBeacons themselves, and that's because the user actually doesn't need to be aware that iBeacons exist. So if you use like this term iBeacon to market something, like that's nothing actually the user should be targeted or deal with. They don't need to recognize this technical or abstract term, and it goes so far that there even isn't like a new interface paradigm or no new things to learn to use the app. So it's really like this magic sugar added, adding this context awareness to something that exists, ideally. And yeah, maybe one closer look, also a bit technically. Every app should be ideally have a closed and fixed coupling between itself and a defined set of beacons. So that means there shouldn't be any manual linking processes involved. So that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, again, to Martin's talk earlier, mentioning like UUIDs, major IDs, minor IDs, like these are technical terms or technical definitions, but you should never ever expose them to your user. They really shouldn't care about these things, and that's actually a great thing, because like in the end it enables a wider adoption and an easy use of the technology. But of course, it also introduces new limits. So I will come back to that later. Especially regarding like coupling iBeacons to apps, like there are serious limitations coming with this approach here. Yeah, so much about that. Let's talk about installations. So basically about options that exist to have users use apps based on iBeacons. And yeah, in contrast to other location services, like GPS or cell tower triangulations or Wi-Fi triangulations, where we have like basically a fixed infrastructure you're working with, and you can base your app around. With iBeacons, it's quite different, because you really need to deploy your own hardware. You need to deploy your own iBeacons to make that work. And yeah, we will now try to find out how we get this infrastructure in place. So it's easy to mix things up there. What I like to do is always to distinguish between like the users of an iBeacon-based app and the owner of an iBeacon. So those are, just imagine those are different parties, or can be, and that will help us to make some differentiations here. Yeah, so the first case is the commercial context. So you will find that in retail, airports, museums. Here, the user and the owner are really not the same person. Like on the one hand, there's the user, they are using the app, and on the one hand, the owner who maybe provides the app in some way. That's great for the user because the user just doesn't need to care for deploying or buying iBeacons. But it's also like a potential compromise to make because like the interests of these both parties are potentially different. Like they overlap in a certain way, and they really should. But yeah, the motivations can be different. Anyway, that's the commercial point that doesn't really help us for our home use case because unfortunately nobody comes to our homes and just deploys iBeacons for us. So let's see how that looks like. So in the personal scenario, the user and the owner are actually the same person. So that's great because there's no conflict of interest. However, you do need like very good reasons to provide to the user for them actually buying and getting standalone beacons. And yeah, that's basically like a classic hen and egg problem. To have on the one hand like an infrastructure to base use cases around, and then on the other hand have like use cases that then again drive more deployments. So that's a big challenge. And I mean the truth today really is when you go to an Apple store you cannot buy iBeacons and you might get them online, but they like as a personal user you will quickly get the impression that that might not be something that's actually targeted at me, and it actually isn't. So the focus isn't the personal use, and so from that perspective, also like I showed you the apps we did earlier. Like from that perspective, it's really totally crazy what we did. I mean, we are interested in the technology and experiencing it, and we did think like that this is something. Really, a really niche audience will like this, and we'll maybe get some early adopters to try it, but nothing more. But yeah, but in the end, we actually were really surprised, and that turned out much better than we thought. Anyhow, problem still persists, and there's actually a third option. Which might be the most likely one, how users get to use iBeacons in our eyes. And that's like being integrated into existing products. So they get iBeacons in some way, but they don't know that they actually get them. They might get like an appliance or an accessory or yeah, anything. And it might have like an iBeacon integrated, and there might be like some sort of companion app with it that recognizes that. So they leverage the positives of it, but they don't really care about deploying something. So that's the three options, and I do think like the last two ones are the most relevant in the area I'm covering here. All right, then let's go home and find some use cases. The first thing is, and something to keep in mind, is really to pick a challenge worth fighting for, something you care for, so try to solve a problem in a better way. Better means like save time, provide more fun doing something, or my favorite one, try to reach a wider audience by making it more easy to use. And use context awareness as a tool to actually make those differentiations. Okay, let's get started. Let's enter home, and what we are looking for now is basically for specific intents or activities we then can use as hooks to base our applications around. So the first step of entry are basically rooms. Like that's already a great categorization of home in general. It's also great because like every room basically has its own purpose, its own set of activities and intents connected to it. So that really is a good starting point to sort things out. However, it's not precise enough. So okay, we're in the living room, so we might be there for entertainment or socializing, relaxation, but not really specific enough to get any clear idea of what we're going to do now. So let's move around through the room and take a look at different objects and things. And one thing we realize is that really every object in our rooms have like a specific purpose. Like there's a strong connection between a set of activities and objects. So everything has a purpose basically. And the closer you get, the better your idea gets of what you might want to do. So for example, you sit on the sofa and you pick up a video controller, and that means like, okay, you might want to do a game now. Or you go to the stereo and you might to listen to something. Or you go, or just the sofa, you want to sit down and there are like some activities that are relevant, like watching movies, reading something. And so it's never 100% like moving to objects. We cannot have like 100% connections between this distance and relation and the actual intent and activities. But it helps us to make a qualified guess, and just the closer we get to objects, the better this qualified guess becomes. And that's the general approach to find activities. And then from activities to apps. And I will give some examples in a minute, but just need to go full circle. So the next steps, we now maybe identified a lot of activities connected to specific objects, and then what we already realize is that, like we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's really like there are so many apps out there, and basically every activity you can think of is already connected, or not connected, but it already is, there's like a link between relevant apps to specific spots at home. So there are many options. So I just want to like open up your thinking around these links between activities, apps, and places. And the same, of course, applies for other rooms. Now I did this for the living room, but it's the same for the kitchen, bedroom, office. Like, really a lot of stuff you could do there, and a lot of connected purpose. All right. Before we go actually to the examples, let's go one step further, and that might be the most interesting one. Now let's take these apps and then think about how the usage of these apps changes when you change your location. So you move to another room, or you get into like a different mode of movement, or you move outside the house. So how does the consumption of an app changes? Like, would a different UI be better suited, or does it solve a different problem? Does it have like a different focus? Would it need to change a mode to be more efficiently? So how does this changes when we move around? And currently, apps try to be a great fit for like every context and every purpose, or just like provide a great kind of experience everywhere. And the opportunity we have now with getting these activities, having these connections to things and intents, and by that context, the opportunity is that we can start processing this and shape the app experience around these changes. Okay, this was super abstract, I guess. Let's just take a look at some examples. First one, easy one, like navigation, some sort of navigation solution, and let's base the thinking of the examples on what I told you just before. For navigation, it could be you're sitting at home on the sofa, and you might want to plan a trip, like you're setting waypoints, you search for locations, explore some places, and define some sort of route. So that's kind of your feature set you would like at the sofa, for example. And then you're getting ready. You want to move outside. You get to like your wardrobe, and you put on your shoes, and then take on your jacket, and then you actually really want to focus on the trip specifically. You don't want to explore anymore. Yeah, you want to focus on like the next steps, like when is the next bus coming, and in how many minutes, and maybe the weather or something like that. And then you move outside, and you're outside, and then you're actually on the road or on the way to some place, and then you really just need to focus on like the traffic, if you need to go left or right, and be like very specific with that. So that's one simple example for just like how changing the context and also implies like a change of focus for apps. Another example, groceries, another classic one. You're in the kitchen and you open your fridge, and you might want to plan a meal, and you want to see what you already have, and you maybe want to get inspired what kind of meals you could cook. And maybe you see that some things, some groceries are missing, so we want to manage these lists. So that's what you do at home in the kitchen. And then you take like your shopping bag and move outside to the supermarket, and then this changes. So now you only want to process the lists, and maybe you even want to be more specific, and like inside in the supermarket, when you're at the bakery, you want to know what you should get there. So again, like this changes what apps, what kind of solutions apps should provide in different contexts. Third example, a music player. Again, sitting at the sofa. So a lot of sofa connections, I guess, I would expect some sofas shipping with integrated iBeacons soon, because it would make so much sense and open up use cases, kind of. So sitting at the sofa, you might want to explore music, manage playlists, do these more complex things with your music. And then on the move, you only need like one big play button, pause button, maybe skipping. Again, this change. And I mean, this is something, it doesn't need to be implemented using like iBeacons and specifics, but iBeacons can cover like parts of recognizing these connections. Okay, and the last one, home automation. Again, a really easy one, like you're sitting at the desk in a room, and what you want to change, you open the app and you want to change the temperature of just the room you are currently sitting in, and nothing else, and you want this immediate change. While when you're like sitting at work and open the same app, you might want to set the timing when the temperature should change, or control the whole house. So a different scope of things. So that could be some takes on how context shapes the experience with apps. Second example, I talked about product integrations. So think about like iBeacons being integrated and closely coupled with existing products like electronics or appliances. Something like a washing machine, an oven, or entertainment system. And you might notice that there are already a lot of existing products that like ship with companion apps that in some way like enhance the experience, or making it, explaining the usage, setting something up. And I think these kind of apps make a lot of sense to actually work with a solution that integrates, for example, iBeacons. And the interesting aspect of this is, and for this use case also, is that like these companion apps, this is something you get something, you install it, you set something up, use it one time, and then you put it away in some folder and forget about it forever. And that's a big chance of iBeacons as well. Like they can remind you that you own something, and it's not like this mean reminder. It's like one that actually only appears when you are exactly next to the product and you show clear intent, and that's the time when you get notified of this application. You think like, wow, cool, right? Like I have this thing and can use it now to enhance my experience with the according product. And thirdly, portal objects, variables. So those are objects without a fixed position. I won't go into detail here. The thing is, what I told you before about like the purpose of things and connected activities. I mean, this is the same idea that can be extended to these kind of objects. So again, like everything has a purpose, like a headphone, a hiking backpack, a shopping bag I mentioned before, skateboard, or a bike, a car. So it's everything you do something very specific with it, and you might already have like specific applications for that. So there's an opportunity. All right, let's talk about user interfaces. So the main interaction with iBeacons is proximity driven. It's actually like motivated by your physical movement through the real world. So really the real world also is or should be the most important part of the user interface. And as mentioned before, the best iBeacon interface is actually no iBeacon interface or nothing specific. The user shouldn't really care about like new interface paradigms to think about, ideally. But there are still some things that should be considered and that define kind of a ground level for an iBeacon experience. And the first thing is the setup process to make sure, you need to make sure that it works. So iBeacons are part of the location services, so they do have like very defined, very strict privacy settings. So the first part of UI you might notice, and you will notice that, is the authorization request. And you need to make sure that your user knows what to do here and prepare them for that. Also, you need to ensure that it stays like that. So there are some modes where, for example, switching on the airplane mode, turning off Bluetooth, changing privacy settings. Like a lot of things or settings can change, and a lot of things can happen that will end up in making your connected app not work. And you need to be, you need to know that and need to check for that and provide help to the users to change that. And actually, there's one more, which is like the repeated request for authorization. So this is new with iOS 8. So the OS actually will ask you again after some time to confirm that you want to continue this. So again, the important thing is to let your user understand why you need this and how they should act with this. Another area here is, and I'm not really going into detail here, but it's like management. I told you before that ideally you shouldn't really work around like managing iBeacons and have these kind of setting and managing procedures. Yeah, there's another area where UI will be interesting. All right. Then let's get to interaction. We can look here at background and foreground mode. Really the most interesting part of the interaction is the background mode. So this is the place where you have like your scanning logic and where you define or where you do the decision between like silence and action and trigger notification or not. So the local notification is another huge part of the UI. So maybe before you thought about, oh great, let's look at some UI pictures here, like some new takes on user interfaces, some fancy graphics, and that's actually not the case. I'm some other, like the system level UI is very important here, and to use that in an appropriate way. And like, yeah, the layer where you introduce your own UI to shape this experience is actually really thin. And yeah, well, notifications, super powerful, super something very small and simple, but super powerful. So you can let them pop up in accordance to the proximity of objects and provide options. And also with iOS 8, it is possible actually to have like two options for the user to choose. So when you then slide left, the user can choose some things they can do automatically that will be executed in the background for him without even launching the app. While up until now, the only action you really can do is like slide right and open the application and do something context aware with it. So yeah, very powerful. And then foreground. I thought a little bit about this and try to find some good examples for foreground UI. And first, I didn't really want to point out something specific because my feeling is that this is something that is really app specific. You need to handle in a way that is appropriate to the context and the tasks. However, I do think there's one UI element that is like really important to be presented in the foreground, and it's like this, which is an on and off switch. So if you use, especially if you use local notifications, I think this is really important to have this in some way to enable the user to turn them on and off. Because the alternative is going to the settings and going to privacy location to your app, and well, maybe that's not really an option. So if you don't do this without threatening you, but the true off switch then really is this. So that's like the connection the user maybe best knows for shutting the notifications off. So I highly recommend on-off switches for notifications. Yeah, so for the UI, understand the expectations of your user, put the user in control. Yeah, be extra sensitive how you use notifications, and yeah, if you spam, you lose. Some takeaways. So if you already built an app, then think about where people use it and how usage of the app changes when you move around. So those are potential opportunities to integrate context awareness. Also think about broadening your audience by making it more adaptive and more easy to use. So then if you think about creating a new app that is context aware, then yeah, maybe just grab one of the use cases I pointed out, and or some new areas, like I did this for home now. You could do the same approach for contexts like work, to find nice use cases, and also evaluate the available technologies. So I mentioned a lot iBeacons. There are other frameworks Apple puts under this umbrella term of continuity, like HomeKit and Handoff. For HomeKit, like you can not only like let an app react, but you also could control like actual devices, which is nice. Handoff, like for moving between devices and transferring the state. So there are many options to remove friction in a context-aware app, context-aware way. You just need to choose the right one. And if you already do create or build a product, a physical product, then yeah, that's awesome. I really think that all products can be turned into context-aware solutions and become more useful. And so use that as a way to differentiate yourself. And lastly, if you build beacons, yeah, don't ignore the personal use case. So we struggle with this a lot, and we see a lot of potential there, but we always feel like at different points that the technology has a different focus at the moment. And yeah, we believe it will change going forward, and this is just the first step, but it would be good to not ignore this. And yeah, ideally build beacons that work well across different apps, and everything will be fine. Yeah, that's actually it for my presentation. I hope I could provide a little bit of inspiration, and I wish you fun exploring options. Yeah, we will do questions now, I guess. If you need any feedback or if you want to talk about the topic, then please don't be shy, and yeah, talk to me while I'm here today and tomorrow. I think it will be an awesome time here. And I will actually post the presentation. I guess I will also include a mind map that might be useful to it on our blog. So you can check that out if you're interested. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. And I wanted to ask, because you were talking mostly about home automation, and do you believe that similar solutions for automating the venue can be successfully implemented in venues that are not necessarily home or apartments, that they serve some commercial purposes, like shops or restaurants? And I'm not talking about pushing coupons or something like that to people, because we know that iBeacon will be used for that, but simply some typical Internet of Things or device automation solutions for venues. Do you see that as a possible outcome of adoption of this technology?
So yeah, I mean, in general, it is like a lot is happening for the home context, and Apple showed this with like a clear dedication with introduction of HomeKit to enable these kind of controls, and these are specifically targeted at home for home use case, and iBeacons is like one piece of the puzzle, like to get a notification and get an application be aware of something, but like the next step is actually not iBeacon territory. It's like a question of the app, and yeah, for example, HomeKit for home stuff. Was this kind of in the direction of what you asked for? Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Nope.
Hi again, Bernd. So thanks for the presentation. So I just wanted to ask, I don't know if you're doing that using your app, but do you have any thoughts or like data what kind of automations people are they did set up using your app, or what's the pattern, or what's the kind of common, or because I don't know if you collect this kind of data, but that would be useful if you see some patterns. Thanks.
Right. So we don't do like tracking, like we don't do actual usage tracking of like which beacons they connect, or which apps they connect, or how they call it, something like that. That might be interesting, but we don't do the tracking. So what we learn from the most is from the feedback from the users. So we receive quite a lot of feedback, comments, support messages, because I mean there is this connection to hardware, so there is some friction also involved in actually using the app. So support is kind of a thing here, but that's kind of also nice because we have a lot of direct connection to users. And yeah, it's very mixed actually. Like really, the backgrounds people are using this it's crazy. Like there are like of course like these super intense home automation cases, like people who say, oh yeah, I have like 20 beacons around my house and I want to connect them, and then I'm like, oh wow, that's not too bad. The app isn't really built for this kind of pro level home automation support. But that's, I mean, that's one area, like this nerd home automation thing. But yeah, we're not that interested in that actually. Like we want to cater them well, but we don't want to get lost in such requirements. And yeah, but it's really different. Like from entertainment, some like teachers who want to use this technology surprisingly often. Yeah, but very different backgrounds also. So. Very unrealistic expectations partly as well in that regards. Yeah, I cannot give you like this general answer to this question, but yeah, we get a feeling that there are very different areas we're touching here, and a lot of different people are interested in this. And yeah, so that's all very promising, and that's really the fun thing in this technology, that you can like adapt it everywhere. You just need to find your niche or your use case, even if it's a tiny one, and go with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Big applause, please.